Welcome to the Compass Audiocast. I'm your host, Hawa Kambian. Prepare to revisit the compassionate wisdom many of us heard in our youth so that we can mindfully apply it to reimagine a future of work that we can all shape for the better. Hello. Welcome back, everyone. Great to have you here. Let's jump in to today's quote. So today's quote is, "You learn by doing." And when I was a child, this definitely meant getting my hands on something to actually try it and experience it, which is so important in the exploration process for children. What it meant when I started working was that no one has all the answers, and we're all doing our best with the uncertainty and the opportunities that come our way. So, my experience with this quote in work life was that during and after my master's studies, I found myself working in a health tech NGO where I was enabling leadership and the staff to improve their internal communications, strategic planning, and operations, all while having very little formal background in those areas. So, what was the problem? Well, when I had left to do my master's in international humanitarian action, I had this vision and expectation of myself working in the front office. And when I say front office, I basically mean being in a role where, you're on the front line, connecting with local communities, you're serving in-need populations who are navigating and looking for a sense of stability following intense shakeups in life. So, things like natural disasters, conflict, or health crises. Instead, I found myself working in the back office, which is essentially working behind the scenes with leadership to organize, communicate, and support initiatives that help the folks who are working on the front line. And so why was this a problem at the time? So at that time, my ego's esteem, confidence, and worth wanted my value to match my expectation. And that was the expectation of doing important and transformational work on the front line, right? It's what you typically would see if you were watching the news and they were showing a area that was impacted by crisis or a natural disaster, right? And the kinds of aid workers who would be on the front line, giving out bags of food, handing out blankets. That's what I saw for myself. And I was carrying the message and the narrative in my mind that surely helping someone in need was more valuable than organizing a staff meeting. And how could I really make a meaningful contribution to the organization's performance by being behind the scenes? All right, let's jump into bridging. So my negative state was actually quite doubtful of what opportunities existed for me in a role that didn't really match the blueprint I'd been given. So while I was very comfortable with communications, I was being asked to organize strategic planning retreats for the leadership as an intern. So the perfectionist in me was screaming, no thank you. Give me what I know I'm good at, where my transcript shows I'm strong. Give me a gold star. And what would have been ideal at the time was to have someone to mentor me in that space, to show me process, to guide me, and set me up to be quote unquote successful in that environment. Because what I really wanted, that positive state, and perhaps quite naively, what I wanted very early on in my career was the validation that all of the theoretical knowledge, assignments, and exams that I'd encountered throughout my education would protect me and ensure my professional success, right? That my deservingness to be in an organization and a role would have already spoken for itself through all the hard work and effort I'd put in at school. And thank goodness for my curiosity, which was stronger than my doubt, because it encouraged me to rotate between sitting with the tech team or sitting with human resources or operations or even the program teams when I was in that space, in that organization. And this example, this kind of opposition between the negative voice and the positive voice that I was looking for is so important, because the future of work will recognize those who are willing to be early adopters. When I look back now, I'm so grateful that my leadership saw potential in me that I didn't necessarily see or believe in myself. So what set me on a completely new pathway and passion towards leadership started from this seed of ultimately being willing to embrace a new identity and path for myself, to the point that I was able to go on to define my own role and growth in that organization. So while I believe it's incredibly important for each of us to grow in alignment with where we genuinely want to go, it's also a gift to bring our unique talent and perspective to the surface in order to create and explore value-added options that perhaps never existed before. The entrepreneurs and innovators in our communities are those people who are given and give themselves permission to imagine something that is different than what exists today, however great or small. All right, so what do I like to do today when I find myself in a situation where I'm faced with learning something new or unexpected? Number one, growth. I believe we're all here to grow mentally, emotionally, creatively, and spiritually. So ask yourself, how do you perceive the situation that you're being presented with as one that supports healthy growth for you? Is it in the direction that's aligned to who you really are? Number two, passion. Growth is great, and it's inevitable if you're a human walking the planet. The bottom line is whether this potential growth is one that you care about. Does it excite you? Bore you? Is it an experience you actually want? Is it one you're prepared to dedicate yourself toward in order to achieve growth? Number three, possibility. Finally, where could this potential opportunity take you? Get creative, get inspired, and if you can envision a pathway towards where you are now and the strong potential of where you're going, then you're on the right track. So leaning into that first role changed my life because it gave me my first taste of working across a business and learning about all of the different functions and how they are integrated and work well together harmoniously in a system. And it was really the place where my passion for organizational leadership was sparked. And for those who are listening, whether this is the first time you've joined or you've been following us for a while, leadership at work, that's my whole jam. And I can easily pin the start of HKC back to this unexpected role that I maybe wasn't quite prepared for. Because I didn't know everything, spoiler alert, I still don't, and I was aware that I had a lot to learn and explore, that pushed me to ask questions, to be inquisitive, and to find solutions. So my definition of success is part of the fact that up to this day, I've been able to realize that a lot of the solutions I was discovering being in a role like this one allowed me to realize that I could help leaders across Africa to operate in a more compassionate, curious, and change-driven approach. Thanks for tuning in to the Compass Audiocast, where we bridge past, present, and positive for the future of work. Please like this post if you found it useful, share it with someone who may need to hear it, and subscribe if you want to be notified when our next one comes out. Leave me a comment to share a time when learning by doing changed your life. Thanks, and I'll see you on the next one.